The startup world is full of posers, grifters, and even predators, all pretending to be champions of founders and their startups. And the crazy part? It's our own fault. We fall for their flattery, their buzzwords, their fake credibility, and it costs startups millions. Today, I'm going to pull back the curtain on the fakes, the frauds, and the bad actors that infest the startup ecosystem and show you how to tell the difference between who's for real and who's just using you for the gram. Let me get a few disclosures out of the way. Not everybody who is out there supporting startups are bad actors, are grifters, are these posers that I'm going to talk about. And I'm certainly not holding myself out as the example of the best expert or the best actor in that environment, although I'd like to think I do good work and certainly try to do it with the best character possible. But there are a lot of bad actors out there, and it's important that we understand who they are, we are able to identify them, and most importantly, we're able to avoid them. So let's start out with one of the most annoying fake investors or investors in name only, the Enos that are out there in the ecosystem. These are investors who don't have any money or certainly don't have meaningful amounts of money. These are investors who are more interested in using startups to create their personal brand than to actually work with startups. And they'll spend more time posting about themselves on social media than working with startups in hopes of booking that next speaking gig or filling that grant, both of which hold themselves out as investors when in actual fact they're more like content creators pretending to be investors. And then there are some really insidious programs out there that investors run that actually charge startups programming or advisory fees after they invest in them. I'm going to pause on that because that might surprise you. We've actually run into those folks several times over the last 4 or 5 years where they will place an investment in an early stage company and then charge them back for their support. So picture this, and I'm using a very real example here. You offer someone or a startup $250,000 and then let them know that every year 10% of that amount is owed back to that investor for their support. It's terrible, it's predatory, and it's just grift. I also cannot stand people who abuse the term investor. We actually have a local organization that is to promote businesses within our city, within our community, within our region, and a previous CEO changed the title of everybody who worked there to investor. None of them were investors. None of them spend any time in investing. None of them are qualified to have that title, but they decided that sounded cooler than program manager or marketing director or fill in the blank. The next category I want to talk about are these public-private partnerships. These are the organizations that don't actually serve founders or startups. And if you think I'm exaggerating, look at how much funding some of these organizations get and how little of that funding or those resources actually flow to the founders themselves. What's worse is they don't know what they're doing and don't seem interested in learning as they go, which to me is the real sin here. It's okay not to know what you're doing. It's okay to learn on the job, but to show a complete lack of interest in getting better at supporting the organizations that, frankly, you're paid to support, that's pretty inexcusable. Sometimes they seem more concerned about keeping their cushy job than actually making an impact. They certainly don't want to cause any ripples, and they're not going to go against the grain if that puts their own job in jeopardy. So this next category is one I think we're all very familiar with, which I refer to as the poser founders. These are the founders that are more interested in looking like a founder than being a founder. They're more interested in looking like a founder than doing the work required of a founder. Usually they're not growth-oriented. They're probably not very ambitious. And then we see a corporate version of this, which is called the intrapreneur, which is somebody who thinks they are acting like an entrepreneur while they are in their safe, cushy, protected job with benefits inside some company. They're not really risking anything. They're not putting themselves out there. And if they're wrong, great. They show up next week and they still get their paycheck. And some of you may have run into some revisionist historians among these founders. These are founders that bought a company that was already in existence. Maybe they were employee number 7 that ended up running the business, or somehow in some other way became the head of this company and then start to refer to themselves as the founder. You're not the founder. Stop calling yourself a founder. It's okay to be an early employee. It's okay to be leading a high-growth team without calling yourself something you're not. And the next category are brokers. These are people that are paid to try and get investors to invest in companies in exchange for a fee, and in some cases, equity, or a combination between a fee, a placement fee, and equity. Understand, early-stage investors usually don't want to engage with a broker, and it's not a great reflection on the founder themselves. If you as a founder are unable or unwilling to go out and try and fundraise, what else are you unable or unwilling to do? Like, I don't know, talk to customers, close deals, hire employees, manage human beings. It's a bad look, and brokers just magnify that. Founders should run their own fundraising. Those brokers are expensive, and they don't do anything a founder can't do. It's just signaling they're doing something a founder doesn't want to do. Well, I'm not interested in investing in founders that are looking for the easy button. Advisors can be incredibly beneficial to a startup, especially at an early stage, but some advisors have too much influence and too much control over the strategy of a company, and founders will defer to them in ways that are unhealthy. We see this all the time, but there's a bit of a Dunning-Kruger effect here where these advisors probably are world-class at something related to this startup, at some area of expertise where they are a thought leader, where they are considered the expert in that field. But the Dunning-Kruger effect comes in when, because they're really good at this one thing, they're really good at everything. That might be something that they think of themselves, and then by extension, the founders start to think about them as well. I've seen them try to fundraise on behalf of a founder, and it's a little bit like the broker example I used before. My first question is always going to be, why is this founder not fundraising? Why is this advisor fundraising for them? What else is that founder unable or unwilling to do? Sometimes advisors will take advisory shares, which, of note, is a terrible idea. Do not offer advisor shares at an early stage. And I don't want to leave out these fractional executives. Yeah, the fractional CMO, the fractional CFO, the fractional CSO, the fractional ESPN, whatever. All of them seem to just be suffering from buzzword derangement syndrome. They're going to come in and tell you a bunch of things that sound sophisticated. But make no mistake, a lot of these people are just recently unemployed and want to work for 15 hours at your company per week and get paid as if they were there for 40. They're just too expensive for what they do and what they bring to the table. And early stage founders need to either learn this stuff or find people in it for the long term to fill those roles. And a quick shout out to those 24-year-old consultants. Super proud of you, buddy. Way to go get an MBA from a state school. Everybody's very impressed. But the fact of the matter is, you don't have any experience to offer a founder. You just haven't done it. You aren't old enough. You don't have enough life experience. Sorry, that's just the biology and physics of the matter. Too many of these so-called experts just moved out of their parents' house. They don't have any actual experience. The fake it till they make it is their business model. So falling squarely in the category of grift are equity crowdsourcing platforms. This isn't GoFundMe. This isn't something where you are giving them a little bit of money now, and 18 months from now, maybe you get that cooler with built-in speakers that you've always wanted. These are platforms that are trading their access for a fee or equity or some combination. And make no mistake, they take way too big of a fee for what they're actually delivering. They effectively give you a platform. And the platform is a website, and maybe it's some templates and some other things. Founder then has to take all of their information and put it on that platform, market the deal, close the deals, get the deals papered, all the while paying this equity crowdsourcing for what? They're also creating a cap table nightmare because most of these crowdsourcing platforms allow you to invest for very small dollar amounts, and that creates a cap table nightmare. So you come out of this with $1 million in investment, which sounds great, except it took 500 people being added to your cap table to get it. Reg CF is arguably the worst piece of security regulation that's come out in the last 10 years. Now, I wouldn't consider this next one grift or predatory by any nature. It's more super annoying and a misrepresentation of what it is, but this is all the kind of corporate PR around startups and supporting startups in a local ecosystem. Consider this the thoughts and prayers effort of corporate PR. They'll get $1 million worth of positive PR for $25,000 in pitch competition prize money, all the while acting as if they are true supporters of local startups. They don't invest in any of these startups, and they don't use these startups as vendors for their own business. You call yourself a supporter, prove it. And here's the kicker, it's our own fault. We're our own worst enemy, those of us who work all day, every day trying to support founders, those of us who are founders, who are just trying to put one foot in front of the other and grow something meaningful, we fall for the flattery and the kind words. We often have a poverty mindset. Thank you so much for the $25,000 pitch competition fee while you booked $1 billion in profit last quarter. We don't ask enough questions. We don't read beyond the headlines. We don't check our sources. We take people at their word, and we aren't protecting enough of what we've built. Hold these people accountable. You don't have to do it publicly, but please do it privately. And of course, this begs the question, how do I avoid these people or these bad organizations? Well, these bad actors and bad behavior like this have been around since the earth was heated by the sun. But you can't avoid them. Ask them for references, but don't rely on those. Find your own sources of truth by talking to other founders that have worked with them, talking to other investors who have invested with them, some other trusted sources from your own ecosystem. Just like there are bad actors, there are some truly exceptional people in every ecosystem as well. Sometimes the simple advice is the best advice. If it seems too good to be true, it probably is. Ask tons of questions and don't stop until you're satisfied with the answers. Google them. Look at their social media. Look at their LinkedIn profiles. Is it junk or is there substance there? For anyone out there watching this who's annoyed with me or somehow feels called out by my critique, show me. Show me I'm wrong. Do good and honest work. Provide actual value. Take more accountability for yourself, your organization, and the outcomes you provide. I would be ecstatic to be wrong. Prove me wrong. I do believe there are far more good actors than bad, and you should absolutely have relationships with all of the good actors. Just make sure you can tell them apart from the grifters, liars, and predators. That's it for this episode. As always, like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks so much for checking us out, and we'll see you next time.